You are listening to the So Now What podcast with Lana Manikowski, episode number 105. I'm so happy that you could join me again this week for another episode of the podcast. If you are watching me on YouTube, you probably see that I am in a sweater because it has turned to sweater weather in Chicago this week. And it was like overnight, all of a sudden it was like snowing and cold and temperatures dropped. But one of the things that I love about living in Chicago is the change of seasons. And I'm somebody who I love the four seasons, and I love being able to kind of embrace the newness and the change that comes along with change in weather, change of landscape. So I'm for it. So if you are not watching on YouTube, you need to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can. And you can see this darling hot pink sweater with ruffles that I'm wearing. And if you follow me on Instagram, you might have been seeing me posting stuff that I've been getting on Temu. And I am not a brand ambassador for Temu. I am just somebody who has become a little bit obsessed with how cute their stuff is. So yes, this sweater I'm wearing is from Temu. And let it be known that I am not promoting Temu at all. I just happen to personally love some of the things that I've purchased from there. And yeah, so now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about something super juicy for this week. I don't know if you can relate to me, but I have spent an awful lot of my life deciding that what people thought of me and what people's opinion of me or what people thought of me was extremely important. You might too. It's, I think, human nature to really care what people think about you, although we don't have to attach our worthiness to what people think about us, but it's pretty common that people have an interest in knowing what people think about them. And maybe not in all areas of their life, but some areas of their life. And what we're going to talk about on today's podcast episode is really going to get you thinking. And I'm doing this on purpose. I want you to think about what's your opinion of you. Have you ever thought about it? I'm guessing most of you probably haven't, because it's not something that's ever really been put in the forefront of our focus, to know that we can really create or have an interest in what our opinion is of us or what we think of ourselves. We often dictate what it is that we do based on somebody else's feedback to us. So if you think in the corporate world, you have your annual review, or maybe in the organization you work in, it's 6-month review. We have someone giving us feedback on their opinion of our performance. And we oftentimes go to people asking, what do you think about this? Or, getting people into this place where we are constantly going to others to regurgitate information to us about us. And I'm not saying that it's not something that we should do, but before we do that, I think it's paramount to understand what you think about you. What do you recognize about you? What's your opinion of how you show up as you every single day? Many of us who went through fertility treatments and didn't end up becoming moms have spent a long time believing that our existence, or the way we spend our days and the way that we spend our hours, or the things that we accomplish in our lives, are not as important as those people who have children. And I'd like to invite you to think how that makes you feel. If you're like most people, or like I once was, it made me feel as though I was smaller than most. It made me feel like I didn't have as much meaning, as much purpose, maybe as much relevance as other people did. And if you're finding yourself being able to relate to this story, I want you to really understand what it is that you're thinking about you. Have you ever stopped and and paid attention, or maybe you can even do this right now if you're into doing some paper thinking with me today. What do you think about you? And just write it down. And I'm guessing, not because you're not a brilliant woman or you're not a evolved human, but I'm guessing that it's going to be a lot easier to come up with the things that maybe you don't feel are as favorable about you than the things that make you feel really proud of who you are. So pay attention, take a few minutes to write down the things that come to mind when you're thinking about you, and decide, do you like those things? And I'm guessing that there might be a lot more things on that list that you don't like than the things that you do like. So I'm going to give you an idea today of some work that you can start doing. It's the start of a new month. Some work that you can do if you're wanting to think differently about yourself. And what we need to do, I need your help with this for you to be able to start to implement some of this stuff in your life, is to decide what it is you want to think about you. And you may be under the assumption that you don't have access to think whatever it is that you want to think about you. You might think that there is this box that has a handful of things that you're allowed to think about you. And beyond that, that's just too big. That's too much of an ask. That's too far away from where you are today. That's not accessible to someone like you. You might think that women without children just don't have the ability to think this about them. And I want you to just decide, just for these minutes that we're together, that that does not have to apply to you. I'm going to give you permission to think whatever it is you want to think about you. And how does that feel? Like, to me, when I first realized that I could think whatever it is that I wanted to think about me, regardless of the journey I went on to become a mom and wasn't able to achieve, regardless of the amount of money that's in my bank account, regardless of my relationship with my friends, my family, my partner, regardless of any of that, when I found out that I could believe and think anything I wanted about myself, I started to perk up a little bit more. And I hope that you're feeling that way with me right now too, because we've spent a long time with this false understanding that somebody has to give us permission to think bigger than we think today. And society tells us that depending on your socioeconomic level, maybe your ethnicity, maybe your race, maybe where you were raised in a religious culture, that there are only a certain amount of things that are possible for you. And let me tell you, girl, that is so wrong. And how do I know? Because I am my own litmus test of what is possible to transition from thinking about myself to believing what I can accomplish. And the greatest news is, I'm going to share with you how you can start to lead with that today. So I want you to start thinking about what you want to think about you. Maybe start by choosing some words. And this is going to be really easy for me because you can't see it, even if you're watching me on YouTube, but I have a bunch of Post-its that I keep on the other side of my laptop where I record my podcast every day. And it has a bunch of words on them. Mostly they're adjectives, but I'm going to read some of them off to you. Happy, eager, powerful, capable, willing, clear-minded, observant, access to everything, desirous. So all these words I have on Post-its in front of me because I decided those were the things that I wanted to think about me. When I wanted to describe me, I wanted to think of myself as somebody who's capable, somebody who's eager, somebody who's happy, desirous, somebody who's observant, clear-minded, all these things that maybe right now or when I thought of those words, I wasn't necessarily feeling that I was showing up as those things every day, but I decided that I could think of myself as somebody who is those things. And you can too. And let me tell you why this is important to you. Because when you see yourself as somebody who is capable, as somebody who doesn't have to accomplish anything before they call themselves capable, you're going to go out and you're going to find the evidence and you're going to create things every day in your life that have you proving to yourself how capable you are. And we don't do that because we think we have to achieve these things before we're able to define ourselves as that thing, or to think of ourselves as somebody who, insert whatever adjective maybe is coming to your mind right now. Are you willing to believe that you are somebody who, I'll just say the word, is eager, even if you don't think right now that you show up in your life every day as eager? What if it doesn't matter whether you show up that way, but you're going to decide today that you are somebody who is eager? And your brain will just have to keep getting reminded. That's where your job comes in. You have to tell yourself every day, maybe do Post-its like I do, maybe do them on your mirror. So when you're washing your face in the morning, brushing your teeth, before you leave for work for the day, you're going to remind yourself that you are somebody who is eager. Not trying to be, not practicing, not hoping they can be. You already are that person. So if I'm somebody who is working on being more observant, I'm going to decide that I already am observant. And every day I'm going to have that reminder, whether it's popping up on my phone, maybe I'll get a timed reminder or a timed calendar invite that says, you are so observant. So reminders throughout the day that my brain is going to continue to go into that place of observance and remind myself that I am observant. I don't miss things. I don't zone out on things. I might have in my past, but I'm not worried about what I did in the past. Because in the past, which is any time, the past is any time before this very minute, this very millisecond on the clock is the past. So you don't have to talk and go back and try to rationalize how you haven't been that thing, because you've decided that this very minute you are that thing. You're not working on becoming that thing. You are that thing. So this oyster that exists for us, we rarely are taught about, because we've been taught in society that the proof is in the pudding. Like, how many times has someone told you that? Like, oh yeah, you can accomplish something, but I need to see some results to see that. Well, what if we already knew that we are that thing and the results started spitting out at us? Because that's how, in my opinion, the universe works for us. And even regardless of what we've been through, and regardless of this relationship that we've had with our past, and maybe with our body not doing what we thought it was supposed to do, or this disconnection from society because we weren't able to have kids, or we don't have kids to talk about and fill our time with, what if we already know that we have relevance? And you are relevant regardless of what you've been able to produce. And all of a sudden, signs of relevance will start to present to you. You'll have proof day after day of how relevant you are. But when you tell yourself that people like you, who wanted to be moms and couldn't, can't be relevant if they don't have kids, then that's going to continue to seek the same type of evidence as somebody who thinks they're relevant. So your body and your brain is going to go on seeking opportunities to confirm how irrelevant you really are in society. And so it's this notion that what we believe about ourselves or what we think about ourselves is very important. And it's great if somebody else thinks you're fabulous. It's great if somebody else thinks you're strong or brave or powerful. But if they think that about you, but you're not thinking it about you, then you're never going to really be able to live in this place of feeling powerful or relevant or brave. And I think that's why so many people get really disturbed when people tell them that they're brave when they're going through fertility treatments. And I know I did. I would be like, yeah, I don't want to be brave. I want to be a mom. But guess what? I was brave because most people probably wouldn't have gone through the things that you have gone through to become a mom. Most people would hear about going through IVF and injecting themselves with medications multiple times a day, or going through this emotional turmoil of not knowing of whether the thousands of dollars you're spending and the prayers that you're offering every day are going to turn out to become yielding of a child. Most people wouldn't do that. So we are brave. You are brave. You weren't brave just in somebody else's eyes. You can choose to be brave in your eyes. But your brain probably is much better at giving you evidence of the things you don't want to think about yourself, when all it really wants to do is tell you that whatever you're leading with, it will bring to you. And it's truly that easy. And I invite you to join me on this journey of deciding what it is you want to think about you, because it will happen. Just like I've talked about months ago on the podcast, people would tell me that I'm glowing. This is when I first started working with a coach and saw such change in me and change in my mindset and learn these type of concepts. People would tell me, like, literally out of the blue, use the same word, glowing. You are glowing. Lana, I haven't seen you forever. How are you? Oh my God, you are glowing. And it was this feeling that I was emitting about myself that created this aura about me that was glowing. And it wasn't because I'm more talented or more blessed or more evolved than you. It was a decision that I decided to make about me and about how I wanted to show up in my life in a way that just I felt radiant and felt proud of who I am. And that's what I lead with. So this week, I want you to really think about the opinion that you have of you. And when you work so hard to get other people to believe something about you, and maybe there's someone you can think of right now who doesn't maybe have the best opinion of you and how bothersome it is to you. Is the opinion that you want them to have of you the opinion that you have of you? And it's really that easy, because no one is going to ask you for, no one is going to tell you that you need permission to believe these things about you. Nobody's going to ask you to pay money to believe these things about you. Nobody is going to tell you that these things aren't available to you. If you want to ask people for permission, you certainly can. But I prefer you to believe that these things are innately available to you, because you are a human being on this earth who is interested in being something that is more magnificent than anyone ever told you that was possible. And that's what I believe for you. And that's why I come on this podcast every week. And that's why I share these things that I share, because I felt like I lived so much of my life in the dark. because nobody told me this stuff was available to me. Nobody told me how easy it was to feel good about who I am and what I've accomplished, even if I couldn't become a mom. So I'll leave you with that this week, and know that if you have any questions, I would be so happy to answer them for you. If you ever want to hop on a call, please schedule a discovery call. I offer these free calls for people who are interested in kind of tapping into this a little bit more, because these concepts are probably newer to you, because a lot of people don't talk about this stuff. We talk about a lot of stuff that makes us feel like junk, but it's rare that somebody talks about these things that really can change who you are and how you live your life and the impact that you make in this world. So reach out anytime. Have a beautiful week. I love you. And remember, it's never too late to discover your meaning. I'll talk to you next week.